Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors are able to talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. We are on YouTube. Just look for The Writer's Dream. We are also on Facebook. And if you have a question about The Writer's Dream or you would like to be on the show, go onto my website, which is lindamariafrank.com, and there's a tab for TV show, and you will get some information there and be able to contact me about it. We have an author with us today, Will Loiseau, who wrote The Quake. And Will was in Haiti when the earthquake happened. So Will, tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Well, I am an English major. I graduated from Stony Brook University. I've always wanted to write a book. I found myself in Haiti for the purpose of my grandmother's funeral. So my family and I, we got to Port-au-Prince on Monday, and the next day is when the earthquake happened. And coming back, I found the inspiration to just do what I've always wanted to do, which was write a book.
Yes, you got the opportunity that you were waiting for. You got the story you were waiting for. So the name of the book is Quake, Horror and Hope in Haiti. And tell us about what it was like. You know, give us a chronological, account of what you went through.
Well, what I went through was, it was a beautiful day, the day that we got there. And as we were going through the city of Port-au-Prince, a lot of what I saw just brought back a lot of memories from what I remember the last time I was there, which was 13 years prior. Mm-hmm. And the next day, it was me and my family. We were just sitting around, and we were having a get-together. We hadn't seen each other in so long. And we heard and we felt what we've never felt before. And everything just happened to just change from that point on.
What does an earthquake feel like?
It feels like, if you could imagine, dozens of locomotive trains underneath your feet, military planes over your head, shaking, rumbling. You really don't know what's going on. It's the first time that I've ever experienced anything like that. And I didn't know if we were under attack. I didn't know if it was a nuclear explosion. I didn't know what it was. But it's the most powerful thing I've ever felt.
Now, was your family, was anybody in your family hurt?
Fortunately, no.
That's a good thing. So you must have been away from, although I don't know if anything on the island of Haiti was away from that particular zone.
No, actually, we were in the epicenter. We were not too far away from the epicenter, about a few miles, several miles. Mm. And in the eye of an earthquake, that's not a long amount of time or a long distance to feel something that powerful.
No. So what did you do?
Well, the first thing that we did, or the people that were in the room around me, they fell to the floor, covered themselves. I happened to stand up, and I was looking towards the exit. And I didn't know what to do, but I knew that there was light that was coming from that door, so I knew that that was the way that we had to go. So my mom was beside me. I grabbed my mom and pulled her up, and then we went towards the open door. Mm-hmm. So it lasted about 40 seconds, which felt a lot longer than that.
That's a long time, actually.
It is. It is. It felt like a couple of minutes, actually.
Yeah. Well, stand in front of the microwave and watch 40 seconds go by. It's amazing. It's a long time. So then what did you do? What did you see when you got out into the street?
Well, when I went out to the street, the first thing I saw was a lot of dust, a lot of smoke. People were in the streets. They were yelling fire. So I didn't know if it was an explosion. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Mm-hmm. A lot of down power lines and buildings crumbled all around where we were.
Wow.
Except ours, which is
lucky.
the most miraculous thing about the whole situation.
So then what happened? I imagine there were a lot of people who were hurt, and what did you do about that? What happened with that?
Well, there were people that were walking around, and they were looking for their loved ones immediately. There was immediate death, so there were people crying in the streets. There were pets, dogs, cats, howling. This is what really brought a lot of that into perspective, because every animal that was in there was actually voicing distress, and that was incredible. So it was just chaos. It was people just running around, looking for their loved ones, trying to get aid, but there was none.
Well, I would assume that ambulances and any kind of emergency aid would be very difficult. What about the hospitals? What shape were they in?
The hospitals, they crumbled as well.
Oh, Lord.
So you have a situation where you have people that are injured who can't get any medical attention. And so it's just people just coming together and just helping each other. Just like in, a lot of distressful situations that, we've seen on the news and, God forbid, we've experienced ourselves.
Speaking of the pets, that's an interesting thing because they said that before the big tsunami in Southeast Asia, that if they had paid attention to the animals, because the animals took to the high ground. They went away from the beach and they went up the mountainside. And if they had paid attention to the animals, they would have known better that tsunami was coming. So I wonder if people had noticed that their animals were, doing strange things, acting strangely. It's an interesting aspect, just a little aside. So then, how many days were you there after the earthquake?
So I was there for about 8 days after. So I seen most of the news footage that you've seen in probably in the news outlets and things of that nature, and I was there for the brunt.
Well, the story that we got on the news, which you probably have seen clips of, was that so much of the infrastructure of Haiti was destroyed that it was so hard to help the people, to help the people, that the hospital, as you said, the hospital, even the seat of government was that building, that beautiful building that they always show was destroyed.
The National Palace,
Yeah.
right.
So how were you involved with that? What did you and your mom do?
Well, it was me, my mom, and my cousins. And what we did was pretty much, it was all about survival from there. So we were trying to contact other family members, which was impossible because all the phone and telecommunications were down. So it was driving around trying to find loved ones. That's pretty much what it was for most of the time that I was there.
And how much driving could you do? Were the roads destroyed? And
the roads were destroyed, and on top of that, if you didn't have gasoline, that's what made it a lot tougher.
Sure.
Because the price of gasoline escalated tremendously in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So that was a big problem.
I mean, that was like that when we had Sandy here, that the power was out and you couldn't get gasoline. Every time they predict a big storm, I always go out and fill my tank with gasoline. And I remember the first day that I went out after Sandy, I passed a gas station and there were all these people in line standing with jerry cans, with the gasoline cans, because they wanted to fill their generators. But I thought to myself, I never thought of that they couldn't pump the gas because there was no power. So you couldn't get gasoline. People don't, you don't stop and realize how dependent we are on all of these things like electricity and our cars and whatnot.
Right.
When something like this happens, it's absolutely devastating. I mean, I don't know what other word to use. So how did you finally get home?
I finally got home by going to the airport, which I arrived, and I must have been at that airport for several hours, easily. And because I was a U.S. citizen, I was granted the opportunity to come back, and I came back on a military airplane.
Okay, so they weren't letting the Haitians just fly into the United States.
No.
Yeah. So then, when you got home, what did you think about, and how did you come about thinking about writing this story? Did you get involved in any of the relief work? I've been on your website, and there is a place where you can contribute money to the fund. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the first thing I did when I got home was just try to assess everything that had happened. And there was this one moment where I found myself in my car driving around. I couldn't see anything. I didn't have any peripheral vision. I didn't see anything. All I was thinking about was what I had witnessed and what my family was going through at the time, or what the people were going through at the time. And it was at that moment that I said to myself, you know what, I probably shouldn't be behind the wheel and I need to find some other way to, express this.
Well, you had PTSD.
Yes, yes. And I had met some U.S. military soldiers, and they said that they had done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they had never seen as much destruction. And yeah, so I did go through something like that. And that's when I knew that I had to express myself in the best way I knew how. So I just started writing just as a therapeutic method. I didn't have any plans to write a book, but then 20 pages in, I started to notice that there was a chronological order. And that's when I started to say to myself, you know what, let me just try to put this together and make a book. Even though I was taught in school that you have to have an outline, but I didn't have an outline.
You know, all authors write their books in different ways, and people ask me, how do I write my books? I'm an outline person simply because I write mystery books, and everything has to tie together at the end, so I need to have structure. But there's so many authors who just say, no, 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 I can't do an outline. I have to just get the story out, and then I go back and fix what has to be fixed. But a story like this, it's like you have to get those memories out, because eventually you're going to forget details. I'm sure when you go back to read your book, you say, oh yeah, I remember that, and you're not really consciously thinking about it now. So I have 2 reviews of your book that I'd like to read them now before we go on. Quake, Horror and Hope in Haiti by Will Loiseau is an exceptional example of autobiographical fiction that works. Isn't that nice? That's great. The writing is swift and sharp, descriptive, emotionally charged, and rife with tension in a fantastic way. Very nice, very nice, comments on your writing. So how has this book, writing the book, changed your life?
It's changed my life because I know how fortunate my family is, and how fortunate I am to actually still be here. So I take a lot of pride in just not taking things for granted, as far as electricity that we have and running water and simple things like building codes. When you're in a building, I don't feel as safe as I used to because I know the possibilities, but these are simple things that we take for granted. So that's definitely something that's changed about me. I write more now because now I know that I have the actual exercise going, so you just keep it going and you get better and better the more you do it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
I mean, you just have to get that first story out, and then it kind of opens a floodgate. And when people talk about writer's block, I think to myself, if you have writer's block, what I find helpful with writer's block is I just do research. Whatever I'm writing about, I research it. I go on Google and I just pull out, stuff about setting and different characters or the history of the background and whatnot. And that keeps me going. But once you start writing, to me, it's amazing because I was never a writer. I was a science teacher all my life. And then all of a sudden I decided to write these books. And since then, not that I'm impressed with myself. What I'm impressed with is that the ideas come out, that I never expected that to happen. So you majored in English, though. Did you take a lot of writing courses?
I didn't take a lot of writing courses. I took some theory courses. I took some playwriting courses and some script writing courses. So that always helps. Anything that I do which involves writing is definitely a help. But I did read a lot of 18th century literature and things like that.
Yeah, what I find helpful for my writing is I listen to audiobooks, and it enables me to really get in touch with the different styles of authors, and I find that helpful with my writing too. Now, did you go back to Haiti since?
I haven't. I plan to go back the beginning of 2016, and that's where I want to do most of my relief as far as giving back. There was a school that was damaged, and there was hundreds of kids that died right next to where my grandmother lived, and that's where I'm centering the focus of where I want to give aid.
You want to rebuild the school?
They're rebuilding the school, but I want to give as much aid as I can as far as...
Be a teacher there.
Hey, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, I know they always need, supplies and things of that nature. Yeah.
And you have a way on the internet to make a contribution to that school. You should really look into that. I can't help you with that because I don't really know about that, but there must be a way that you can raise money for that particular school.
Sure.
I used to work at Adelphi, and there was a woman on the faculty, and she lost a daughter. She had twin girls, and she lost one of them to a freak medical accident. And she's Kenyan, and she had land. She and her husband had land in Kenya, and they established an orphanage and a school. And so every year at Adelphi, she would run a fundraiser for that. So you need to find out how to do that, and you can bring some money. I know shipping things to other countries
Very
is
expensive.
incredibly, right? Isn't it ridiculous?
Right.
And I know she had problems because she would have to go through Mombasa in Kenya, and she said it was all bribes. She had just to get desks to school kids. It's really pretty awful. And so that's a wonderful thing if you could go back to the school. Do your relatives in Haiti tell you much about what's going on now?
They do, and one of the things that they tell me is that the progress is slow. I mean, you have certain areas where there are certain hotels being built and resorts and things of that nature, but as far as the epicenter of where most of the damage occurred during the earthquake, this is slow. It took years, literally years, for debris to be moved out of the roads, and hospitals will be rebuilt. So the progress is slow.
Yeah, so but the government is pretty much in control of things. There's no like civil chaos going on, because that would be a real impediment to any progress. But yeah.
To my knowledge, there's always some form of chaos going on, whether it's elections or whether it's any type of situation that they have going on with the rebuilding process.
And there must be a number of organizations like Red Cross and the Clinton Foundation and whatnot who've come in, and have they helped the situation?
From my knowledge, I've heard stories that the Red Cross has taken in millions of dollars and built few homes.
Yeah.
Most of the money has gone to quote unquote administrative costs.
Yeah, well, that's a complaint in general about the Red Cross. I don't want to bash the Red Cross, but you hear that you worry about the organizations that you contribute money to, because there's always the possibility that not all of that money is going to go to the people you want it to go to.
Right,
So.
and this is one of the reasons why I just feel more comfortable just going there myself and being hands-on. And I know the money's going to get to where it really needs